and Allison Clark had told us she might have difficulty because of her work schedule, so that's fine. And by the way, we appreciate for all of you, anybody that can't make a meeting, we really appreciate when you can let us know ahead of time, as you did, Carrie, before, because that way we're not waiting for, when we had the last meeting, we had a couple people that were way on the line, and we hate to wait too long if we don't know if somebody's going to be coming. So I appreciate y'all trying to communicate that in ahead of time when you can. Okay, so we have a quorum. It's 5:06. We will call this meeting to the special meeting to order. Any citizens with business not scheduled on the agenda who would like to speak at this time, this is the time to do it. Do we have anybody else on online that would like to speak?
None that we see on our end.
Okay, thank you for checking that. Okay, we have one item on this agenda for tonight's special meeting. It is consideration and possible action regarding new perimeter fencing for the Montgomery Old Cemetery at 310 Pond Street in the Historic Preservation District.
So, members of the commission, in your packet is the cover sheet that kind of talks a little bit about this, as well as some backup information from the Historical Society. I noticed that I don't see Kirk Jones from the Historical Society on the line, but he and I were in conversations last week about it, and I think based kind of on what my understanding of it is after talking with Kirk, certainly think that I might could get to just about any answer that we needed. And again, if there were an outstanding item, that certainly I could follow up with him on as needed. But if you'll scroll to the second page in your, which is a site plan submitted by the Historical Society, which just shows roughly the square shape that is the old cemetery, and the red dash line around 3, or really almost all of it, is where they plan on the new 4-foot wrought iron fence to go. There's a small portion up in the northwest corner that's a private cemetery that has an existing iron fence that's going to stay. And in the letter that was submitted, if any of you have noticed the just kind of what I would just call a standard style iron fence over here that the Eagle Scout last year added a new section of wrought iron fence on the new cemetery here adjacent to City Hall, that it was going to match that style of fence. So in terms of the finials or anything, it's nothing too crazy, but it's more than just, kind of your standard subdivision looking or residential wrought iron fence. I think it, is going to look a little more of a commercial grade, meaning that the members are just a little bit, larger, and it just, has a little more substantial look than a residential wrought iron fence would. After the site plan, you can kind of see, right in between pages 2 and 3 of, or I'm sorry, in pages 1 and 2 of the explanation from the Historical Society, you can see there they've talked about it's about 700 linear feet. It's approximately 4 feet tall with a picket cap. And again, kind of what they've said, what the description of the project was, which is also shown on that site plan.
And thank you, Dave. Let me just confirm that everybody did get the packet with all that you saw. Everybody has seen that layout, right?
Yeah. Again, I think it's important for me just to convey that, again, the reason, that I had explained to you guys that we were are trying to call a special meeting, or that we did call a special meeting to review this item, is that They were awarded a grant from the MEDC for a portion of the fence. One of the conditions of the grant is they follow all city processes. And I guess I had a small concern that if they didn't get P&Z approval beforehand, that there would be a risk of them not being able to get their grant. And again, I don't, my own sense is I don't feel like this is a particularly contentious item in that it's a wrought iron fence that's replacing a chain link fence, in its, exact location. So I guess the boundaries of the discussion are a little bit more known than they would be for something like a new building on a vacant lot.
Yes, and thank you, Dave, for putting that in perspective. It's important to know why, occasionally we have to call the special meetings, and it's more of a timing thing on this one, and especially with the costs that have been going up for quite a while. And I can tell you from back when we looked at this originally, when the Lutheran Church was doing their building.
Susan just told me that she spoke with Kirk a second ago, who was outside trying to get a little bit of work done. He's on the way back to his house to get onto the Zoom call. If you guys want to ask him any, thoughts or questions, he'll be, on the line momentarily if you need him. So
who is going to maintain this fence? Like once we put it up, the cyclone fence, it aged. Where I think I spoke to you, it's the historical society's responsibility that if it begins to rust or falls down or the welding comes apart, because the cemetery by the city hall, some of that fence has fallen and some of it has been replaced. So I'm just curious as far as the maintenance and keeping it looking like it's supposed to look, because even the one by city hall needs some work.
Sure.
But I'm just wondering, so did we get clarification of that?
I think he should be able to. I know from the city's perspective, what the city would look at is the underlying ownership of the property. If we needed something addressed, it would be, with the owners of the property. That being said, and what Kirk may be able to share with us is if there's any overlap or any arrangement with the cemetery association. Do they have any maintenance, obligations under that, or is it all on the historical society? But hopefully we'll get him on.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because that's an excellent question, because always maintenance and long-term is the thing that we always want to.
We're only on the committee for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So I'm asking this question, and 2 years from now, there'll be somebody who replaces me, and they won't have known.
Right. Exactly.
What is?
And by the way, so you can still sometimes do a second term. I mean, I guess I'm on my second one, but yeah, just so you know. But yeah, and I'll mention these metal fences have really come a long way as far as holding up in rust. I know I've done some stuff with it. It's galvanized and like a powder coating. So I'm just mentioning that only because it is good to see. It looks like a good quality one.
Yeah.
And they tend to really you resist rust. But that's, I mean, for any kind of majors, if something gets broken or if something tips over or, anything could happen. So that's a good question. And I guess we're kind of assuming the Historic Society, but it might be a combination. We'll see.
7799.
So
Number.
but we're kind of waiting for, it does
Just to
sound like,
let you know, I just got off the phone with Kirk and he's calling in. So he should be checking in, Dave, shortly.
I think we may have him connecting right here.
Yes. Every so often they have trouble connecting right over there.
Mhm.
This is Susan. I'm doing just fine, Allison. Okay, can you go?
Hey, Kirk. You hear us?
Kirk Jones here. My apologies.
No problem there. I think we caught just the tail end of that, so I'll just do one more audio check and make sure you hear us.
Kirk Jones here. I hear you.
All right. So one of the questions, Kirk, that, maybe, we've kind of gone through just a brief introduction of the project. And one of the questions that was raised was in terms of the maintenance of the fence or the ongoing maintenance, say, a limb falls down or a car runs into the fence, who actually, is over the, the responsibility of the fence? Is that the Historic Society?
Yeah, the property belongs to the Historical Society, and then I assume the fence would be maintained by them.
Gotcha.
Hello, Mr. Jones. This is Jeff Waddell. We appreciate you attending. It always helps to have the person to talk to. It was also mentioned that there may even be a little bit of an overlap on who maintains things. Is there possibly a cemetery committee too, or something like that?
No, this is not associated with the cemetery committee like there is in the new cemetery. This would since there's no new additions to the cemetery, it's basically just a piece of property, and it was deeded to the Historical Society from the Methodist Church a few years ago.
Okay. And it looks like we realize it's a good quality galvanized with the powder coating, and it should really hold up well. So, the question just is in general, if anything ever came up with like Dave said, if a tree limb or something. So we just want to make sure we understand how that all works. One quick question I had for you was, it looks like that original contractor that came out is still, they would be planning on removing all of the old chain link fence, correct?
It is done as we speak.
Oh, good. Great.
That
And
was my next question was, when were they going to start?
Yeah.
When were they supposed to finish?
And if you could just explain to us, just briefly, I know I bumped into you the other day and you'd mentioned there, even long-term, there may be some things like pillars or you may have a long-term plan for other upgrades. Is that possible?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Dave shared a conceptual drawing with you, but there are hopes and plans to add some brick pillars in strategic locations and maybe some archway, signage announcing what the property is. I'm hoping to encourage some Eagle Scout projects to do some of that, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it sounds like a good goal. And as far as right now, what we're approving, it does sound like you're not changing anything as far as the entry gates. Everything would always be open to the public, I guess, all the time through the gates.
Yes, that's true. There will be walk-through and drive-through gates, kind of as there is now.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for the detail on the paperwork, because you covered it well. Go ahead. There may be some more questions. That's all I had.
And Kirk, just for reference, I'll say that I have shared on the screen now the conceptual drawing. I was hesitant to include it in the packet since the P&Z looks at, kind of a literal, interpretation of what's being submitted versus what's being, requested. And I didn't want to get them too far off track without you there to kind of put the context, into this drawing. But this is the drawing that he had mentioned that shows, the possibility of some brick columns, some paving, out along the state highway there. And so this shows kind of a fuller idea of what this fence, could eventually lead to.
And that's, I know probably a pie in the sky interpretation, but, just getting rid of the chain link fence and adding the decorative wrought iron will be quite a improvement. And then some brick pillars. We may never get to all that paving out by Highway 105, but all the other stuff are not so pie in the sky, I think.
Well, those are all great ideas, and time will tell.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the chain link fence coming down and the wrought iron fence going up.
And do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, Brittany, second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. It passes.
This is Kirk Jones again. Jeff and Dave, I appreciate y'all going out of your way to make this special meeting happen. And I apologize again for my tardiness.
Well, we appreciate you making the effort, and we understand, this is a good time to call a special meeting for the right reasons. So we appreciate all you're doing, and we look forward to it.
You'll see some results very quickly.
I guess we should eventually have some fun with the signage when we do some more. You could make a note of the old cemetery versus the new cemetery.
Right.
Everybody gets a kick out of that. But there's a lot of history there, and this is a great thing that you're doing to help it, to showcase it.
Well, there's seventh graders crawling all over it in the last couple of weeks. So
Well, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for attending, and look forward to the improvements.
Thank you. I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second that motion.
And seconded, all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, Carrie.
Thanks, Dave.